I also want to understand, or rather, if you could decode this US IRF press release coming as it does when Mohan Bhagwat is in New York and they urge the Trump administration to, put sanctions on RSS, seek revocation of his visa. Now, what does that press release mean? Does it mean that Trump's administration also somewhere down the line would second what USIRF has written in the press release?
No. So the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom is a quasi-U.S. government. So, for example, there were two people who posted comments. One is being attacked because he is a Pakistani American. People should understand, doesn't matter where he was born. He's an American. He's been appointed by the Democratic Party, and he's the chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. In the past, people of Indian origin have also been on that. But the other guy, who is not an Indian, his statement was the more stronger one, where he basically called for sanctions, targeted sanctions on RSS people. Now, U.S. Commission maintains an annual report, and since 2020, they have been documenting atrocities against minorities, violence against minorities, against religious freedom. People are taking pride in the fact that religious institutions are being demolished with bulldozers, etc., all over India. They are proud of it, I feel so sad. I was listening to these students in Patna. A student, he's been preparing for 6 years and the exam hasn't happened for 3 years. And he was crying literally. He couldn't speak. He was so emotional. And I'm saying, and yet you vote for this party. Your parents are voting for it. Your family members are voting for it. And given on a good governance scale, the BJP doesn't deserve to win votes. Otherwise, they would not be invoking this Hindu-Muslim, Hindu-Christian dichotomy. So people are voting them in spite of the bad governance because they have bought into the hate politics of RSS and BJP in India. And it is damaging India's growth. Look, India can never become great if all its minorities, which constitute nearly 20% of the population, are deliberately impoverished and marginalized, right? So if you really are inclusive, you should be promoting and helping the minorities to also come out of poverty and come out of backwardness. That we don't see those policies. I mean, we see the naras, sabka saath, sabka vikas, but the policies are exclusionary. And I think there should be greater scrutiny in India about it and overseas. So now with even the United Nations chipping in, but the USCIRF reports are there. They are documented everywhere. The Democrats take it very seriously. If you remember, Anthony Blinken said, we are monitoring India. Remember, at the peak of, look, the best relations Modi had was with Biden, not with Trump. It was rhetorical with Trump. With Biden, it was real. Even then, Blinken said this. Kamala Harris, as vice president, actually told Narendra Modi on his face about this. If you Google Los Angeles Times, you'll see a whole article on how she basically lectured Modi on human rights and minority situation in India. So the point is that in the government circles, people are aware. And in the past, India was very critical to balance China. But if that perception changes, India's strategic necessity for the US to balance China is altered by, say, a G2 model, then I think the lights which are just highlighting India's discrimination of minorities will actually begin to have policy implications. If Rubio or J.D. Vance becomes president after, Trump is all about money, that is it, and personal glory. But these people are like very serious. They are like members of RSS. Rubio and J.D. Vance, they will focus on discrimination against Christians. And remember, when Rubio came to India, what did he do first? He went straight to Mother Teresa's house because the Indian government had previously cancelled the non-profit status or frozen the accounts of that particular organization run by Mother Teresa's followers. So the message was very clear to the Indian government: don't touch Christian organizations. Yes, the Rubio and Vance may say, okay, go kill Muslims, we don't worry, but RSS wants to kill Christians also. And look at the kind of treatment they are giving to Christians these days, targeting them.
You're right, Dr. Khan, but there's another question which people have been discussing for the last 2-3 days, or since the time Bhagwat reached New York, that what are the outcomes which RSS is actually looking at? Is it seeking legitimacy? Is it trying to give a message? Because back home you've had a Gen Z movement, so they will try and send out a message to the Gen Z. They will try and say that, look, RSS, as you thought isn't so bad, and look, we also stand for oneness and this, that. So I'm sure they will seek legitimacy. But how is it going to unfold? Because he will have a very laced language, and I'm sure he's going to put all that out.
So, look, there are several things going on, Neelu. One thing is that Hindu nationalists in the US have tried to model themselves as a monotheist religion, because they know that as long as they are seen as outside the Abrahamic family, like even Christians who hate Muslims and Jews, they recognize that Muslims, Christians, and Jews worship the same God. So, but that's not the case. I mean, there are more gods in Hinduism than there are people in America, isn't it? So there are like 7,000 crores or so many gods. So this whole idea of polytheism and the idea of idol worship does not sit ultimately well. So there has been a way of re-articulating Hinduism as a kind of monotheistic. So if you look at Vivek Ramaswamy, the moment you ask Vivek Ramaswamy a question about Hinduism, he starts quoting the Bible, if you notice. He never quotes Hindu texts, but he quotes Bible all the time, because he's trying to say that Hinduism is like Christianity and we have the same values. So this is the agenda of the religious Hindus. And I sympathize with this, because as Muslims, we also emphasize the Abrahamic tradition so that people realize that we worship the same God. And Muslims also revere Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. But that is different from RSS. What RSS is trying to do is very small and narrow. RSS wants its hands in the pocket of the diaspora. They want their resources so that they can be more effective back home in India. Plus, they realize that the diaspora is becoming influential, powerful, politically important. You had Rishi Sunak in UK become the prime minister there, and you have politicians here in the US. Vivek Ramaswamy is running for governor, etc. So they think that if they can literally do what they oppose, which is convert these people into RSS and Hindutva people, then they will be very powerful allies, supporters, financial, etc. So this is about getting international support when at some point, I think in the next 3 years, Modi is going to do something very drastic to reaffirm the Hindu Rashtra identity of India.
Okay.
That could lead to violence. And that could lead to international criticism. So in order for protection from international criticism, India is campaigning to be part of the permanent members so they can veto anything that happens in the UN. Yeah, and they can also make sure that powerful Indians in various governments, they are trying to copy the Israeli model, right? So if the Israeli diaspora is so powerful in various Western countries, they can get their politicians to support and fund genocide. So they're thinking, why can't we do the same thing? Why can't we use our diaspora to push the Hindutva agenda at home in India and enjoy support for it internationally?
So that's almost like weaponizing the diaspora in your favor.
Of course. Modi did that. That is what he has done very clearly, weaponizing. And you can see that in the case of the Canadian fiasco, when India's relations with Canada had gone awry. Even the assassinations of Niger and others was using Indians in the foreign country as assassination. Yes, it was used by a gangster, allowing the Indian government a deniability, etc. But yes, if there were no Indians in Canada, then they could not have killed the other Indians too,
Absolutely.
right?
So very interesting points you've raised, Dr. Khan. But coming to the last leg of our interview, what is the kind of media coverage which Mohan Bhagwat's visit is getting in the New York papers and in the American papers? Do you see a wide coverage over there of the event and the kind of protests which are taking place?
They are waiting to see what happens. Right now, the protests are not, like, for example, I did not see a huge article in the New York Times or National Public Radio, right? They also realize that they do not want to give him that kind of importance. He's not Modi, right? He's just a right-wing guy. Unfortunately, there are too many right-wing people right now in the United States. He's just one of them. So, but I think that I hope that there is nothing unpleasant that happens. Let him speak. I'm sure even the RSS people who are sitting there will be embarrassed by all his wonderful statements. I think I can tell you the speech that he's saying. We believe in all humanity as one family. As Hindus, we have had a long history of inclusion. Forget about the fact that for thousands of years we have treated people as untouchables. That was not, RSS. So they will come up and try to protect. Now the question is he going to promote RSS? Is he going to promote Hinduism? Is he going to promote Hindu nationalism, or is he going to promote India? So there will be a lot of this overlapping of these messages, right? But I think that they don't realize that we don't have Godi media in America. Every day, if you watch CNN, if you watch MS Now, if you watch our comics, just look at the comedians. Like there are thousands of comedians who are daily making fun of Donald Trump. In India, 6-year-old kids are arrested or detained by police for demanding some kind of resignation. I saw some photographs of police taking away a 6-year-old child in Patna. So there will be critical scrutiny of what RSS is now. And I think that is something that once you shine a light on RSS, then the sinister nature of that organization will become quite apparent to people. Not only that, but it is also becoming apparent to Indians themselves when they see what is happening.
Yeah. No, I mean, look at the cockroach movement, how they are denigrating the entire RSS ideology and all that. I mean, small children, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, talking about the ideological leanings of RSS. But coming to my last question, Dr. Khan, do you see any possibility where you could see a possibility of this New York function not happening because of some reason, and Dr. Bhagwat not going to Canada at all? Could there be that scale of pressure?
So I think the New York event will happen. It's still 27, just 2 more days. But I think the Canadian thing could be delayed. I couldn't find the date for when it is, in the first week of September.
Yes, 31st and 1st.
Yeah.
31st and 1st of September.
Yeah. So it is quite possible that he will go a day early and he'll meet with the people, because his real work is meeting people privately and strategizing on what to do, right? There are a lot of supporters of RSS here in the US. So I think that is the more important part for him, which he will accomplish. But it is quite likely that there will be more and more protests in Canada, as well as I think he's also going to UK, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. And there will be these issues, but I can tell you this much: there will be a lot more literature coming out about RSS in mainstream media across the world, and given the fact that there is now scrutiny of RSS back home. Look, the fact that RSS is not a registered organization tells you how corrupt this organization is and how corrupt the government is. How come they are not bulldozing the houses of an organization which has buildings and offices which look like 5-star hotels, right? So they are faking it. There's some fake organizations, etc., etc. There is a lot of duplicity going on there, which is in collusion with the media, with the things, I'm thinking that if I come to India and introduce a concept, please don't get offended, and start a school for something that Indians have forgotten, called investigative journalism. I think I should deserve a Padma Bhushan. In fact, just for saying that India needs an investigative journalism school so that they can hold the government accountable and groups such as this accountable, I deserve at least a Padma Shri.
Absolutely. Can't agree with you more on this. But let's see what happens on 29th of August. Thank you so much, Dr. Khan, for joining on HW News. Thank you.